Indiana Disability History Project, Indiana Institute on Disability and Community, Indiana University. Muscatatuck Oral History, Sandra Blair, March 8, 2005.
It's March 8th, and we're talking to Sandra Blair at her home in Terre Haute. Interviewers are Jane Harlan Simmons and Maribeth Mooney. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about when Bryan first went to Muscatatuck, how that came about, what that was like.
Well, when he first went to Muscatatuck, before he went to Muscatatuck, of course, I was a little upset at having to put him in there. He was only 7. But at that time, they did not have the things they have today. And there's myself, there are other people that live right here in Terre Haute that belong to the MARC Association. And they, which are parents and families of the patients, and they probably felt the same way I did. You know, you don't like to throw your baby away at all, which of course I could go see him at any time. But at the time, it took a longer time to get down there than it does now, because you have a better highway now.
So is that what it felt like?
He was about 7 years old, and being that he was afflicted, you know, that makes you more protected. But the doctor at the time assured me that it was the best thing to do. And it was hard on us. It was a lot like I felt like I was burying him. But we gradually, after we saw that he said, he won't miss you, you'll miss him. With his mentality, you know. But I thought, I bet he thinks, where did his world go?
Sure.
You know.
That must have been really hard.
Yeah, and so it was. However, as time progressed, we could have taken him home for visits, but we were afraid we'd undo the good that Muscatatuck had done, so we just went to see him. And I didn't get to go as often as I would have liked to, because I had other family, I had to work. You know,
were you here in Terre Haute at that time? So what kind of a trip was it to get from Terre Haute to
Well,
North
we
Bryan?
went in the car, but sometimes, you know, during the holidays, the roads would be slick, and at the time, we didn't have I-65 like it is now. We had all those turns and curves. If you've ever ridden your car down around Spencer and places like that, we were going through there. And on ice and everything, that's not much fun. And I can remember, and it was hard driving, but we went down there because we wouldn't have missed seeing him, you know. But there were times we couldn't get there. I just had to send something. So I always felt like there was a little void there. You know, there was one missing. And then when I got the opportunity to move him up here and have him closer, and I'm older myself now and everything, I don't drive as much, so I thought, well, this is my opportunity to bring him closer to home. My daughter, one of Bryan's sisters, owns this house that she rents. And she made the improvements and different things, and that is where Bryan's residing now. He's very happy. It's a nice house, and he's been very happy.
You mentioned a family support group when Bryan was 7 years old. What was
There is the MARC Association.
the MARC Association, and is that a family support group for a certain type of disability?
It's the Muscatatuck Association for retarded children, you know, people that had their children there. You see, at that time, there wasn't all these facilities, these wonderful things they've got now.
Right,
There just
absolutely.
wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think all they had here in Terre Haute was a little, some little office or something up at Indiana State. And my mother took him up there. I was working at the time. She helped me quite a bit. And she took him there to be checked out and everything, but there just wasn't much here.
So would there have been any alternative for you as far as
Other
place for
than
Bryan to
keeping him
be?
at home, no.
Mhm.
So,
And that was starting
he
to be
needed a kind of
difficult at that
very,
age.
and with the other children and everything, so we loved him, but he needed things that we couldn't give him. So that led to placing him at Muscatatuck, which was very hard on us, but we did it.
Sure.
Did he have any medical complications? Like,
Not physical.
not physical?
They were all had to do with mental retardation. They refer to things nowadays as autistic, and you hear all different kinds of terms, but it is all degrees of mental retardation. There are different degrees. I'm sure you've seen people out there with different things, but
And the doctor felt that it was best for him to go to Muscatatuck.
that would be Gordon McLaughlin. He was a pediatrician here at that time. I don't know if he still practices or not.
Now, when was this? What year?
Well, let's see, Bryan is 47. No, he's 48. Yeah, 48. He had a birthday in November. When you have 6 children, it's hard to keep track of
Wow.
the ages.
Yes. You had a busy household.
Yeah, and Bryan was the second born. So he was 48. He's 48 now. He was 7 when he went to Muscatatuck. So that's been quite a few years.
Yes. And there certainly
And he's
were.
been here now about, a little over 2 years, almost 3 years now, here in Terre Haute. And after making adjustment, he loves it at his house.
Great.
When they've been gone and they come in and he looks around, sees that he's home, he just smiles from ear to ear. No matter how bad he feels, you still get a smile.
Oh, wonderful.
Great.
So it's nice, and they've got it nice and comfortable for him. He has great caregivers. I'd stack them up the side of anybody. They do a wonderful job, and the house is always just sparkling clean. And
Great.
they do things with him. He generally goes out to dinner once a week, and so it's nice for them. They have a nice patio in the back there, like a deck, and they have cookouts in the summer. And things like that. So it makes it nice.
Now, are any of his siblings in the area still? Or?
There are 3 that live here. 2 sisters and a brother.
Were they able to visit him at all when he was at Muscatatuck? How did that work?
Yes, well, when they went with us, they did. And there's been a niece that has visited him down there and took him out for a picnic. Since she's been all grown up and everything.
Yeah.
She has a little boy that's autistic. And so she was very interested in learning everything about Bryan, to compare him to Jordan, her son. And of course, Jenny has a lot more nicer facilities than what I had to choose from, because back at that time, they just simply did not have it.
That's right. What was your first impression of Muscatatuck when you got there that first time?
That's hard to say. Just a big building, and I wasn't sure what to expect. And
That was the first time you'd been there?
yeah, but I thought all in all, it was clean. They, and the kids were playing and everything, of course. But they seemed relatively as happy as children can be, you know. But some of them it's hard to tell. Sometimes they'd be unhappy because something wasn't going their way. But
Sure.
they, like all kids, but they, all in all, they took pretty good care of them. There were a few instances, and I was a little unhappy. And I won't go into that, but of course, I gave the doctors thunder, you know. I'll be honest, and I gave the staff a little bit of trouble, but I said, but after we solved that out, it didn't happen anymore. So that, but I understood they're taking care of a large number of people.
How many do you think? How many staff people? Was Bryan in a room with
Well,
a bunch of other kids?
Yes, they have different buildings, and then they built some new buildings to where they could condense the number down a little bit. But, and the new buildings I thought were just great. They had 4 boys to a room, but they each had their own bed, their own dresser, their own things for their belongings, little wardrobe and everything. And, but it was all done new and redecorated, and they all seemed to be happy.
Before that, was Bryan in a room with more than four other people? Was it kind of like a dorm?
I think it might have been. I never did really just see. I saw a few of them. I think it was probably more like that. But as you know, they've made improvements.
Yeah.
They made improvements. They built new buildings, and he's had good care. He was always clean and always nice.
Now, that was the 50s then when you brought him there. Is that right? I can't figure out how we subtracted 48 from.
Yeah, I mean 50s
Well,
and the 50s.
Let's see. Willis and I were married in 58. Bryan wasn't too old. I'd say early 60s.
Okay.
Early
So
60s.
it was past that farming time. If they weren't doing the farming community at that point, or were they?
I don't know about the older ones. I don't know about them. They did have older people that used to do little work details for whatever their mentality was capable of, because some are more capable than others.
Did he have any kind of formal school situation when he was younger?
Yes, they gave him teaching. He had teaching for what his mentality allowed, which wasn't a lot. But for what he could, yeah. Because as you know, if you're mentally incapable, it might have been an effort to learn how to brush your teeth, if you aren't mentally capable. But for whatever they're able to do, yes, they encourage them and they taught them. I'd say for what it was and everything, and they had nice picnic areas for the families.
Yeah.
We had a favorite one that was down kind of off in one corner of the property, and it ran by a little creek, and it was real nice. It had a fireplace in it, and we used to go down there when we went and got Bryan, and we picnicked down there. One time we went out to a restaurant over in North Vernon. We do different things. One of his favorite things is eating, so that pleased him no end.
How did he feel about your visits down there?
Well, by my not being around him like the staff was, he was always glad to see us, but, he looks at people who take care of him probably more than he does me, because I'm not the one that's been taking care of him, see. But he's always glad to see us, and of course my daughter rents the house, and she's in and out over there, and she always talks to both of them, and they're always glad to see her. Her name is Rita Johnson. And her and a daughter named Donna Blankenship, that's the oldest one. The most closely related to him.
Uh-huh.
They have a different father. Willis is their foster father.
Uh-huh.
Donna and Bryan's father live in Florida.
Oh.
He lives in Punta Gorda, Florida. But he's not had much contact with Bryan since Bryan was very small. So.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice any changes in Bryan from, when you were taking care of him and then when you started visiting him at Muscatatuck? Did he seem different to you? Or?
Well, it was hard to tell at first, but as he gradually adjusted, he was just, that was where he grew up, you might say. But
he had a period of adjustment when he first got there?
Oh yeah, I imagine, just like a kid going anywhere.
Sure.
And but all in all, I think they took very good care of him. And when I couldn't go down, I'd call. And I said I can't always get there when I want to, but I said that I am interested. I do care.
How often do you think you went, kind of on average, and did that change over the years?
It did change from time to time because we've had illness and different things in the family to where I had times I couldn't go at all. I couldn't go as frequently as I wanted to.
Sure.
It was probably easier in the summertime.
Yes, if I could go down there in the warm weather, but I had to work too.
Right, absolutely.
Takes a lot of money.
Did you make backups today? Oops.
How did you feel when people said that Muscatatuck was going to close and that Bryan had to move?
Well, I thought at first it was just a rumor. You know how you hear
I don't have my whole
rumors.
voice.
And so I thought, well, and my niece first, Jennifer, she was the first one, it's going to close and everything. And I said, well, I assumed that if it's really going to close and I need to get Bryan out of there, I'll be notified. And I was, but it was quite a while after that. And I don't know as it's officially closed yet or not. I guess it has.
Not quite.
Not quite.
They still have a few people.
For the most part, I thought they had placed most of their people. But I thought, well, when Rita had the house to rent and everything, and she said, well, Mom, why don't we just put him in my house, and he will have an income, and he can rent from me.
Yes.
What kind of work did you do?
Nursing.
Okay. If you already said that, pardon me, but I wasn't sure if you had told us.
Yes, I was a nursing assistant.
And what kind of hours did you
All
keep
kinds.
as a nursing?
All kinds. Any shift you could name. I've done hospital work as a nursing assistant. I've done nursing home work. I've done home health care. I sort of ran the gauntlet.
So with
I'm not physically able to do it now. If I was, I'd take care of Bryan myself, but
sure.
I'm not.
Well, that must have been a challenge with 5 or 6 kids in the house to do that.
Oh, yes, but you do it. There were a lot of other people I worked with that did the same thing.
Did you have family around or anybody else to help out with the kids?
My parents helped quite a bit, and then Willis has always been good. We help each other. And I don't know how else to put it. We just lived life. We just did what we had to do.
Sure.
So Bryan is the second oldest in family. How much
He
older is
has
the elder?
3 sisters and he has 2 brothers.
So were they kind of close together in age, or?
The first ones were, and then the last ones were a little more varied in their age. My children range in ages from 49 to 31.
Mm-hmm. So the youngest of the siblings probably didn't get to know Bryan
Not
very
as
much.
well, but he doesn't, he lives the closest to him right now.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because Bryan lives on Woodley Avenue and Jimmy lives on North 8th Street, and a lot of times he's a manager at Margaret's Brewery and Pub, and sometimes when they take the boys out to eat, they'll call Jim and make a reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And he always smiles when he sees Jim, you know, and so now they've got 2 of them to take out, so I don't know how that works. So.
Did they have different staff coming in, to, like at night?
Oh, yes, yes. It's Community Alternatives Rest Care.
Oh, rest care.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
And they have pretty good staff. And pretty good staff. And Rita is a great landlady because she always did say that if she was ever a landlady, she was going to be the right kind. Whether it was her brother or anybody else. So she makes sure everything's in writing and everything's, and there's a staff person that is with him that takes care of all that special stuff.
Great.
She handles the financial end. She does a lot of things. She's special with rest care. And of course, I'm free to see the books at any time. I'm the guardian. I could go in the middle of the night and demand to see the books and see them. You know, it's.
Do you feel like you have a very closer touch with Bryan's care?
Yeah, it's easier with him here in town. Yeah, I can, and if anything at all happens, they've got to call me first. They've got to call me and let me know. I mean, it's short of seeing to the patient.
Right. Sure.
Do you think that Bryan's quality of life is better, or how would you compare that with his time at Muscatatuck?
I think that probably although there was a nice fellow by the name of Glenn Carmichael that used to take him out at Christmas time. He loved to go around and see the Christmas lights.
Oh.
And the staff here takes him around. He likes to ride in the car and they go and see all the lights and drive around, you know, if the weather permits. And they always do that. And then in the summer, there's a nice park, Collett Parks over there. They take him over to the park. And sometimes, I think usually once or twice a year, I forget now just what it is, something medical, they've got to take him up to Indianapolis. And when they do that way, generally they stop and eat, you know, and he gets to ride a long time, and they love that. I don't know what there is about riding in the car, but they love it. They all do.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So Glenn was a staff member at Muscatatuck that took an interest in Bryan? Have I got the right?
Lynn was his name. I don't know whether he's probably retired by now. He was an older gentleman. And he took Bryan out and got him a new coat for Christmas, and they ate dinner out, and they went around, looked at all the Christmas lights and everything, and Bryan, I think, would have followed him anywhere, he'd just talk away, you know, and he'd say, "Isn't that right, Bryan? What do you think about that?" See, Bryan is nonverbal. So, but he knows when he's being noticed and included. And Bryan just be sitting there in his own little world, and he'll say, "What do you think about that, Bryan? Do you think that'll be all right?" Or whatever, and just include him in the conversation. So,
were there other staff that he became particularly attached to when he was at
there
Muscatatuck?
was a young man, I can't think of his name. His last name happened to be the same as ours. It was Blair. And I can't think of that boy's first name, but I know he took care of him quite a bit. But there were a lot of other staff members. I can't remember all their names, but they're really a nice group of people.
Yeah.
Very understanding and.
Does Bryan go to like a workshop or anything during the week in the daytime?
He did at first, and then they didn't think he was getting much out of it. It was over by Union Hospital, where you take a sack lunch and you go, and they wanted him to attend. And they just didn't think Bryan was getting much out of it, so they discontinued it.
Oh.
He said he wasn't mean or anything when he went over, but it's just like, you know, for no more interest than he took in it, he might as well not even have been there.
So it was
they
like
did try it.
Hamilton Center, Hamilton Center, Spectrum Industries, over on 8th Street. Spectrum, yeah.
Spectrum or something. I think what they were doing was, I think that's actually what they were doing. They were trying to sort of test them out and feel them out to see if they'd be qualified for doing different things. And I know the caregivers said right now, they said, I'll assure you he's not. Now, they do have him do little things at home. Now, for instance, he will pick up his plate. She'll say, pick up on a verbal prompt, you know, pick up your plate and your spoon, and then he'll walk and carry it to the sink on a good day, you know. And he doesn't have teeth, but he will now, but they used to have him brush his teeth. Now he has gum care. And I asked them about getting him dentures, and they said that Bryan was not a good candidate for dentures because of, I suppose, maybe seizures or something, although he has medicine to control that.
Oh, so he does have a seizure disorder.
He does, and he has what they term as premature aging of the brain.
Oh.
And this caused a lot of difficulty. Right now, he's developed some physical ailments through no fault of theirs. It's just
medical aging type stuff.
Right now, he's got swollen feet, and they're real red. I don't know what he's got, you know, but they took him to the doctor today, so I'm kind of waiting to hear.
Wait to hear, sure.
They're very good to call me. They call me if he got a tiny little scratch, because they have to do that, you know. They say, Miss Blair, I hate to bother you. I said, don't worry about it. It's just whatever.
Right.
What kind of communication did you have with the staff when he was at Muscatatuck?
Well, usually I had to call. They would call me if there was an accident or an incident and something happened, but otherwise I was the one who had to initiate the call and everything. But I understand, you know, being as it's, I'd get greetings, and, you know, you get Christmas greetings, and you hear if they've got some big thing going or something like that, and we're always welcome to be down there, but...
Did you feel like you had a pretty good handle on how he was being cared for, or was it hard with him being so far away, knowing what was happening?
Well, like any parent, you hope you have a good handle on everything.
Well, it sounds like you had some communication with them.
I had some, yeah, but like I said, I had to initiate a lot of that myself.
And you mentioned that there were a few times when you had to tell them what you thought about his care and how you...
There were a few incidents, and of course I wasn't there. And I said, just because I can't be there doesn't mean I'm not concerned.
Was this when he was little or in recent years?
It's coming up at different times, because when someone is like Bryan is in your heart, you always kind of think of them as little, even though they're grown-up people.
Right.
Now, were those the times where you felt that they were not doing what you think that they should have been
doing? Well, there were a few incidents. I said, I think you need better communication. I said, somebody's not giving somebody information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like nurses, I said, don't you nurses have reports? When one nurse goes off and another one comes on?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I said, and how about your staff? You know, are they communicating?
Mm-hmm.
And then they had this deal where the nurses were in one building and they just come over certain times a day and administer medications and get a report from staff that's just doing the caregiving. And I always thought that was sort of strange, you know. Why don't they have a nurse for each building or write something, you know?
Right. To have more consistency.
And then maybe have a head nurse, you know what I mean, the head of nursing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they all reported to me, because anywhere where I always worked, the hospital, the nursing homes, you have a DON, you know, director of nursing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, and she said, oh, we have things, but by having so many different buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like this deal here because, you know, you can, and I can run over there, you know, if I get too concerned or too curious, I can go over there. I can run in there whenever I need to.
Mm-hmm. That's really nice.
And it's better.
To be so
It's better.
close.
The other place, it's all right, but it's institutional care, and I don't think that's quite the same.
Did you
That's
have
one
any
on one. He
opportunity
gets
to,
one-on-one care.
Yeah.
did you have any opportunity to make decisions about his care? Did they ask you about those things, or was there any point at which you...
Yes, you get an envelope with documents and you know, and things in it, and it's all documented, and they give you a complete rundown of what habits they've been trying to instill in Bryan and how his care is and everything. I'd have to go in there and in the file cabinet, you know, and look, but they do, and they send a large vanilla envelope, and every so often you get one.
Yeah.
This is now or back when he was at Muscatatuck?
Both places.
Both places.
And it's all typed up, and then they would have a little place for you to sign, you know, and send the thing back that you received it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's, so that's pretty much what I can tell you, you know, we just did the best we could, and like I said, back then, they didn't have the facilities that they do now. Nowadays, if you have a child like that, there must be 50 different organizations and things you can take them to, things you
Plus
can
the
go
schools.
to. Oh, yes.
The schools
Yes.
accept children with disabilities now, and they didn't back in the 50s.
He must have felt pretty isolated, I would think, back then.
You do. You do feel isolated at times, and but you don't realize that. Well, I've known other people that have had children like that, but their children were already older. And this one lady at Sullivan, but she took care of her children at home. And they're all gone now. All passed away, but of course, but I remember. But that's what you did. And that made me a little, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to send him or not, because I remembered that this lady worked. She worked out. She took care of him at home. Her and her husband worked different shifts. They did what they could in order to take proper care of the two that were, they had 3 children, one normal daughter that was older and married, and then they had Lenora and Augie Jr. So they just took care of them at home.
Looking back, what do you think were the best parts of having Bryan at Muscatatuck over the years? What were the things that were most beneficial for you and for him?
Well, he got a lot of different care, and different therapy that I probably couldn't have seen that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And it was paid for by the state, you know, probably. And because of that, and doctors were there and everything. That was beneficial, you know. Like I said, he needed a kind of care that I couldn't give.
Mm-hmm.
And Muscatatuck was really my only alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. If I had had another one, I would have taken it.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
No offense to Muscatatuck, just I would have taken another alternative, you know, than sending them away from home.
Mm-hmm.
what do you think were the least helpful things about having him there? The sort of the other side of the coin for him and for you.
Well, he was away from his family, from his other siblings, and he just didn't have that close family bond like you'd have if you were around him all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
And there were times, of course, but it wasn't like he missed us because of his mentality. He said, like the doctor had told me, he said, I'm going to paint you a very black picture. He said, you'll miss him. And you'll remember, but he won't.
Mm.
With Bryan, it's here and now.
No.
You know. So it's in a way, it was harder on the family than it was on him in a way.
Mm-hmm.
He loves who's there doing whatever.
Right.
And
Did that make it any easier for you, though, knowing that
that's
he was
the way
present?
people say, well, how could you stand that? I said, that's the way I could stand it.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, how did you do that? They'll ask questions, well, how could you do it? I said, well, sometimes in this life you do what you have to do.
Were there a lot of people that didn't seem to understand your decision or didn't support your decision?
Oh, you always see people like that. But it's like my parents said, we know. The people that love you know, and they understand why, and said it doesn't matter what those people think.
Mm-mm.
And as I've gotten older, I've seen that they're right. You know, it's you can't
Right.
make everybody happy.
Mm-mm.
You know what Abraham Lincoln said? You can fool some of the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you can't fool all of them all the time.
Right.
You can't please all of them.
And you
all the
can't
time.
please all of them either. And I said, I just don't try. I said, I do the best I can, and as far as everything, and everybody's concerned. And if I can't do everything, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
I just worry about the important things.
Good for you.
Sure.
Yeah, the important things are what's important.
Is there anything else that you'd want to share with people that were interested in what was Muscatatuck like, and what was it like being a family member of somebody who lived there? Any other thoughts that would be good to?
No, I think it is just something that they would have had to experience for themselves. And I'd leave many times in tears, not because Bryan wasn't being taken care of, or the fact that he only cried after me one time, and I almost didn't leave until he got interested in something else, and he was crying because he was angry. He wanted to go back outside.
Oh.
It wasn't after me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only thing that, and I thought to myself, and I said, if he'd been crying after me, I said, if I'd thought for a minute, I wouldn't have left.
Yeah.
They would have absolutely had to find me a cop somewhere, you know. But That wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wanted to go back outside. Well, when he got interested in something else, he forgot all about it, and he didn't care whether I was there or not.
Yeah.
So that made it possible for me to go out that door.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time. Any other time, he just went right back and went to doing what he was doing, and he didn't really care whether I was there or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that made it easier.
Yeah.
And he was getting older, and that was his home. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as I said before, you do what you have to do in this life.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in the Lord, and I said if I didn't believe in something, I don't really know how people handle anything that don't believe in something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you girls believe in, but I know how I believe, and I said I don't know how anybody handles anything if they don't believe in something. Mm-hmm. And I believe that Bryan was put here, and he was like this for a reason. God knows why. I don't question God.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a reason for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that reason was, I just accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Sure.
And that's really about all I can tell you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, then I will turn off the machine.
Music, Redwood Trail. Produced by Indiana Institute on Disability and Community, Center for Health Equity. Funded by the Indiana Governor's Council for People with Disabilities. Copyright 2019, the Trustees of Indiana University.